Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And you're very welcome along to this week's edition of Friday Night Racing. It's Ger and Johnny with you every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, broadcasting live on all of our social channels. And the best place to get us these days is on the shiny new OTB Sports app. You can download it for nothing in either of the app stores. And Friday Night Racing is, of course, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Check out hri.ie. Love every racing moment. And you can follow the Twitter account at HRI Racing. And the hashtag is every racing moment. Johnny, good afternoon to you. How you getting on?
How are you, Ger? All good?
Are you bleary-eyed from staying up late? What's the shenanigans, or the non-shenanigans as they actually are in America?
Yeah, that was Tuesday night, though, wasn't it? It's I don't know. I was talking to the lads on Off the Ball the other night about it. I've never seen anything as crazy in terms of, like, certainly the betting market on it was absolutely bonkers. You know, Trump was a seriously hot favourite at one stage, and now he's kind of been, basically on the drift ever since. But when it's looked like he's had no chance, there are still people betting on him, and obviously he's thrown his toys out at the pram now. But yeah, I've never seen anything like it. I just hope that's the end for him, as I guess many of us do.
Let's talk about the Storyteller and a big win last weekend. I'm delighted to say we have the jockey of the Storyteller, Keith Donoghue, back on the show. Keith, how are you getting on?
Yeah, very good, lads. Yeah.
And I want to show you this then, or listen to this anyway, to make the hair stand up in the back of your neck. The Storyteller going great guns, you going great guns along with it, but this is the biggest race that the Storyteller has won at Down Royal. It's the champion chase from last weekend. Have a listen.
Heading to the second last, presenting Percy, Chris's Dream, the Storyteller. The trio go away from Delta Work and Two for Me. To the final fence they go. It's Chris's Dream with the Storyteller presenting Percy just behind them, and they're in front of Two for Me and Delta Work. Chris's Dream and the Storyteller away from the last from presenting Percy. Chris's Dream, the far side's beginning to pick up further. The Storyteller's trying to rally right back on the near side. Good old battle for the Ladbrokes champion chase. It's Chris's Dream and the Storyteller right to the line. The Storyteller's done it just from Chris's Dream in second. Back in third is Two for Me presenting.
That sounds pretty good, I guess.
It does, yeah. You'd listen to that all day, all right?
Have you watched it back many times?
Just a few.
No harm. So what's your recollection of the race? When in the race are you starting to feel a little bit confident?
Probably only at the line because it was a tight enough finish, but I knew going to the second last I had a very good chance, and I knew that he'd battle well and that he'd stay well, but it was literally just on the line that I got up.
Because it looks like you're coming and you've plenty of horse underneath you.
Yeah, I did, but obviously Robbie Power was travelling very well and might have jumped the last well, but he prepped a little bit at the back of it, and Robbie kind of got a half a length of me, and I wasn't sure if I was going to pick him up or not, but thankfully my lad's very tough and he got there in the dying stride.
Johnny, obviously this is a very big race. It's a key race indicator. What are the phrases that they're using at the moment? Key race alert.
Yeah.
When it comes to the big races at Cheltenham, and we have been talking about some of the horses in this race already up to this point. Presenting Percy in particular over the last couple of weeks. Presenting Percy wasn't nearly as good as the Storyteller at the weekend. So why is this race for casual race fans? Why is this race so important?
It kind of signals the start, I think, of the jump season coming back. That Down Royal meeting, we're in an era where it's not as easy to get people racing maybe as it was in the past, and the comforts of one's home. This is before lockdown and all that. The comforts of one's homes, people can watch racing in comfort now. But Down Royal is a cracking race meeting, and Keith will attest to that they get a great crowd for that. It's a 2-day meet over the Friday and the Saturday, and it's a big occasion for Down Royal. But in terms of, I suppose, the narrative of the jump season, this kind of signals, we're coming into the winter, and as much as Willie Mullins tends to sidetrack this meeting because he brings his horses out a little bit later, traditionally in the recent past and right up until last year really, Paul Nicholls would have brought good horses over to this meeting, and really good horses, and you saw from the quality of the field, the two horses that fought it out, Delta Work presenting Percy, it was it was a hell of a race. And I think something that startles me about Keith in terms of the story with the Storyteller is that Keith has ridden the Storyteller 7 times, and in those 7 races he's been sent off an even money favourite, 11-4, 20-1, 100-30, 6-5, 2-1 favourite, 9-2. So a bit of a variety of prices, but generally not favourite. He's ridden them 7 times. How many has he won, Keith?
6.
6, yeah.
Yeah. What happened the day he was beat?
I'm not sure. It was actually, that was in grade 1 as well. It was a novice, but
I think he might
sure
have been
even where he finished. I finished.
Yeah, I think he might have been 20-1 that day, behind Monaghan. But I suppose that brings me to my next question. Does he take a bit of getting to know? Because this horse has won 11 times in his entire career out of 33 starts. You've ridden him 7 times and you've won 6 in him. I don't think that'll get quite the credit it deserves. I know he's generally been running maybe not in grade 1s, but he's probably has his own way of jumping in a way. And maybe have you gotten to know him really well throughout that 7-race program?
Yeah, well, maybe like it was 2016 when I won a maiden hurdle on him in Down Royal, and then I didn't ride him again until he went chasing. I won a beginner's chase on him in Fairy House, and then I didn't ride him. That was in 2017, and I didn't ride him until Galway this year. So I don't know, was it just a bit of luck that he hit a bit of form at the same time, or did I just get on really well with him? But he has his own way of jumping. He's can be paused and a bit cautious through the air, but thankfully he seems to jump well enough for me.
And what was it like last weekend in terms of did he give you sort of as good a feel as he ever has? Because I know the day before I just thought you were very patient on him when he won at Punchestown. It was a pretty strong race on the day. But what sort of feel did he give you? In Down Royal, did he feel kind of like he'd just grown in confidence himself?
Yeah, he that day in Punchestown, I thought he was an absolute certainty. You don't like to say them things going out, but I said it to Gordon the other day. He'd been running again a lot of them Dickinson horses that had, realistically they'd gone past it, and he was still in the form of his life. So I was fairly confident that day. I knew then on race fitness going into Down Royal that he'd have a very good chance having the fitness over some of the other ones starting back, and I was confident. And I told the lads in the yard for a few days before that I thought he'd win. So actually I was right.
Yeah, did you? What's it like to ride in a race like that? Because I guess normally you're not going to be riding many 9-2 shots in grade 1s, but you were riding a 9-2 shot in a proper grade 1 with like proper good horses in it. And what was the race like to ride in?
I suppose there's probably no pressure on me. I could just drop him in, and if it happened, it was brilliant. And if it didn't happen, sure, it was just he wasn't good enough, or he ran his race, or he's after having a long season. But there's no pressure with Delta Work and Presenting Percy in the race. The pressure was on them more than me, so I could just let them race away and follow away. And I couldn't really do anything wrong. Whereas if you go out and Presenting Percy or Delta Work and you get beat, you're doing something wrong straight away. So there's no pressure on me.
Is the quality of those horses and the quality of the horse you're on, does that make the feel of the race different from your perspective?
Yeah, well, it's a great one. Like, you're going a good gallop, and you need to jump, and you can't miss fence. And it shows how competitive a race it was. There was 6 or 7 wide down to the second last, and all good horses. But thankfully, it went my way on the day. So
does that make it more difficult then, because the competition is so fierce, than like an easier race where I phrased that wrong. But does the quality of that mean that you have to be more concentrated even than a lesser race?
I don't think so. No, I think every race you have to have the same concentration. But I was just I was happy enough with my position the whole way. I was just riding him to make sure that I was coming home, and I was a little bit worried when we jumped to 4th last. He wasn't travelling as well as I would have liked. The ground was a little bit softer there, but when we turned into the straight, got onto the better ground, he really came alive, and I had to come wide. I was a little bit afraid of that because he can jump a bit right, but thankfully he was straight enough over the last 3.
The previous winners of this race have obviously gone on to do some pretty good things. We've had Cotto Star and Don Cossack, who obviously both went on to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup. You were saying there that it's been a long season, and this is a very fit horse given how often the horse has been out. Does that mean it's less likely that we'll see being able to plot a course to the Gold Cup, or what does the future hold for the Storyteller, do you think?
Like, he's 9 now, going 10, so if he's ever to run in a Gold Cup or running a Stayers Hurdle, it'll have to be next season, or next Cheltenham next year, sorry. So imagine just freshen up for a few weeks now, and you'll see him at Christmas. I'm not sure what he'll go for, but there's plenty of options for him to go hurdle or chase him, but obviously handicaps are gone now with his rating.
What was it like as well, just this being such a bizarre thing? Because as I mentioned, Down Royal is one of the most atmospheric racetracks in Ireland. They enjoy their days out up there, and there's no doubt when, as you said, so many horses in contention, sort of 2 out, there would have been a proper roar, people getting into the spirit of it and all that, and you win a driving finish against another pretty well fancied horse in the race, but instead there was actually no one there. So you're kind of, I suppose, internally, this is unbelievable. I've won a Grade 1 here, but there was nobody there to celebrate.
Yeah, I think the buzz I was on, it made no difference that there was nobody there or not. I was just delighted, you know, it was pure emotion, and they're the races you want to be winning. Obviously it is different, but I think we've got used to no crowds then now as well, so I wouldn't mind winning a few more Grade 1s with no crowds.
Yeah. How does that compare to winning at Cheltenham in, like, with all due respect, fairly lesser consequential races of the cross country? How would you compare the two, the feeling of it?
I think Cheltenham will always have the better feel because it's Cheltenham. You dream of riding winners in Cheltenham and that buzz and coming back down in with the crowd and all them. Cheltenham is special, but to win Grade 1s, it is brilliant as well.
Keith, can I talk to you about the first Grade 1 you won? I think it's around Christmas time in Limerick in 2017, is that right?
That's 2018, I think.
2018. And so, like, as far as I know, that's like this incredible 24 hours in your life, in your career. So you win your first Grade 1. There's a great picture of you and your brother in the parade ring celebrating afterwards. And then the next day you had a fall and got quite the kick in the face. Is that right? Is that, have I got the timelines right?
You have, yeah. The next day, yeah, I got a fall. My head hit the top of the horse's head, and I broke my eye socket in 3 places: my cheekbone and my nose. But that's the highs and the lows of the game that we're in.
It's mad, and this is your first Grade 1 win since then.
It is, yeah. I came close to in the John Durkin last year. I was second on Hardline, and that's probably the horse that I won my first Grade 1 on, and that's probably the only time I've actually been placed in a Grade 1 since.
It is mad, because obviously you were in studio with us, I think it was February, before we had any sense of what was going to happen, and you talked a little bit about your weight struggles then, but then I went back and just reminded myself of some of the stuff that had happened before that. In 2017, you thought for a long time that maybe you were actually going to give up the game, and you took a fairly long break away from the sport.
I did, yeah. That's well documented. Everybody knows that, but thankfully that's in the past now. And
you fixed it from running, Forrest Gump style, just getting out in the track and running. Yeah, I'd run 70 or 80k a week. Obviously it's hard work, but if I don't do that, I wouldn't be getting the days like on the Storyteller last week. So they're what makes it all worthwhile. So this is a lockdown thing, is it? No, I was running before then as well, but I probably just, the lockdown done me good because I was able to train properly and eat right and not worrying about going racing or worrying about your weight or worrying about losing 5 or 6 pounds to go racing, where I could just had the time to train nearly like a professional runner and eat right and not be travelling around the country and that. So just the lockdown definitely was a good help to get my weight down. To get kick-started, is that, because like, you know, probably were off seasons over the last couple of years where maybe you might have had that chance to do it. Did a penny drop, or did something specific happen in lockdown where you went, okay, need to have a look around here and do something about this? Yeah, well, to be honest, like racing is a professional sport, but it's not like a professional soccer player or a professional runner that where you have a couple of weeks off or a couple of months off. Racing, you only get time off if you're injured, or you might get a few days here or there. It's all year round, so you're not actually treated like a professional athlete in that way. But before the lockdown, my weight probably wasn't great again, and I was a bit sick of, you know, not getting the chances that I thought I should have been getting for the work I was doing in Gordon's and missing out on rides. I was sick of people saying, oh, if he could do this weight and if he could do that weight, he'd be riding that horse. So I said to myself during the lockdown, this will go 2 ways. I'll either put on a stone or 2 and never ride again, or I'll train and get down that I can do 11 stone, which I hadn't done in 3 or 4 years. So thankfully I made the right decision to get it down to do 11 stone, and I've had 25 winners now this season. And was there ever any temptation during lockdown to just have the chocolate eclair and go, right, that's it, I've had enough? Probably before the lockdown I was absolutely delighted when the racing was called off, to be honest. I was probably the only one that was happy, but it's just like to get a break away from it because it's so mentally tough. But then, thankfully, it's helped now, the lockdown. And did this weight loss now, does that fix the mental toughness in some ways? Because, like, what you're talking about is a fairly constant existential struggle with your weight to get a ride and not getting enough rides and the weight. And then that's like not a very virtuous circle where you're like, well, I'm going to have this bag of chips because, like, I'm miserable anyway. I may as well be miserable and at least not hungry.
Oh, definitely. Like I remember a couple of weeks before Cheltenham last year, I went into the office in Gordon's and I pretty much told them that I didn't care anymore, and that my head was gone. I couldn't do it, but it's just pure because I wasn't getting the chances and the frustration. I was doing all the work at home and running, and then the weight wasn't as good, and then you're losing 6 or 7 pounds just to ride one horse, and that that's mentally very tough. But so that's why I said in the lockdown that I get my weight down, that I can do 11 stone and there'd be no excuses.
So how did you do that? Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say, Jar. What did you do? Did you take advice from someone? Because it's not like you're, 20 years of age here, and this just came to you overnight. So what has clicked?
Like I was always on a good enough diet, but I just never had the time, because you were always riding. You're like, you'd be sweating to do it, and I think it was just more just getting the time off to actually train for 2 or 3 months, just consistent training without losing that couple of pounds I was losing it the healthy way,
And so was that
always in my head that I just wanted to be able to do 11 stone. I know I used to be able to do 11.4, and I know it's only £4 in the difference, but it makes a lot of difference for getting rides. Like, I've won 6 3-year-old hurdles this year, whereas I've never even rode in them before.
Because you were too heavy?
Yeah.
And sorry, just like, because I think a lot of people went a bit mad with the exercise at the start of lockdown, but many of us have put the weight back on, unfortunately. You obviously, for loads of reasons, need to keep the weight back off. You don't have the same time that you did during lockdown now. So did you just get better at time management as well?
Yeah, I probably did, and probably got a bit more selfish. I started to just worry about myself and not worry about others, and train like a professional athlete. I was literally trained as if I'm a runner, and started putting myself first instead of putting other people first, and just said I have to be selfish here and look after myself instead of doing things for other people,
and on a
going here or going there.
On a day-to-day basis, how much are you running now?
I'd be averaging 70 or 80k a week.
And an equal amount of time every day, so it's riding out in the morning, having a bit of a rest, and then going for a run, is that it?
Yeah, I'd be riding out in Gardens every morning, and then I might ride work for a few people like Jim Draper or Matthew Smith, or a few people just around here, Gerard O'Loughlin, and then I'd always kind of go running in the evening or whatever, and then do a lot of floor work and stuff like that.
And is running in the evening?
I train with the football team as well.
Okay, all right.
Well, obviously not doing that now, but...
Yeah. Is running in the evenings when it's getting dark, is that a bit miserable, or are you just like into it now and actually quite enjoying it?
No, just into it. I'm a very good runner, and I like running. I think even if I wasn't a jockey, I'd be running, so it does make it a little bit easier.
How fast are you? So say for 5Ks, what length of time is that?
Around 17 minutes.
Right. That's like the top 1% of all human beings on the planet.
Yeah, that's with just me own out training as well.
Right, that's not bad.
You could run like 6 or 7k while Gordon watches home and away, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I'd say you're probably better off for the experience as well. Do you ever get afraid that you're going to get fed up with it, and like as Ger was saying there, you can get into these things and they can become a fad? Or do you think now indefinitely I have my weight sorted here and I'm a better athlete because I'm going to do this?
Yeah, no, obviously there is some days there that it's like, oh, I have to go here again, but I think everybody gets that. Every sports person gets that. Every normal person, gets a day where they don't want to do something, but I just have to look at the bigger picture and think of the rides I'm getting and the season I'm having, and getting opportunities to win grade ones. That's where I want to be. That's what makes me happy, not just being known as, oh, Keith schools all these horses, or Keith does this. That I was sick of hearing all that. I was sick of sitting at home watching all the good horses winning, and Gordon or Davy Russell or someone saying, oh, Keith Donoghue done a good job on this horse. That's not what I want. I want to be riding them horses.
I suppose as well, like, have you been something of a groundbreaker for other jockeys who, so many are struggling with weight, and we see, not so much maybe in this country, but certainly in America, there's flipping where you're basically thrown up purposely to lose weight in your stomach, and in Ireland more so, it's obviously probably just not eating properly and stuff like that. Do you think, have others looked to your example? Have you spoken to other jockeys about what you can do?
Oh, I definitely have, yeah. And a lot of jockeys admire what I do, and the amount of jockeys that say to me, I'd never be able to do what you do. So, like, you know, you have to have a strong mentality to do it. And I've had probably more downs than I've had ups, but thankfully I can just battle on through it.
And does the fitness make you a better jockey?
Definitely. I've probably never been this fit, and I feel fit and a hard fit. Whereas before I kind of would have been sweating, and you wouldn't be as strong going out, and half the time you wouldn't even want to be getting up on the horse. You'd be only thinking of getting it over with, so you could get a drink or a bottle of Coke or something into you and just get home, and that was just that done. Whereas now I can go out and do 11 stone and be strong, and I definitely feel a lot better riding.
Just on that, Jared, there's an interesting one there. Just the last race at the Curragh, or the penultimate race, there was basically a photo finish, and two of the most promising young jockeys in the country fought out a photo finish. And you're just thinking, I wonder, like, do they analyse jockeys purely on the basis of how many photo finishes they win versus how many photo finishes they lose? And I do wonder, Keith, about that in terms of, is there enough analysis of jockeys and their lifestyle and how much like wasting is actually impacting them in terms of their strength in a finish and dehydration and all that, whereas you're going about it in an entirely healthy way, but so many jockeys are necessarily or unnecessarily doing things that really any professional sports person would not be doing, which is not eating properly and maybe wasting, and like the negatives that must have in terms of just day-to-day race riding at the top level.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I definitely think I'm a better rider this season than I was last season or the year before. Just basically because I'm not wasting as much. And just the wasting thing just brings negative thoughts into your mind all the time. It's absolutely horrible, like what you have to do when you are wasting and the thoughts it brings into your head. And obviously racing is a very, very mentally tough game, like, because it's so many ups and downs. But I think you have to be definitely stronger when you're not sweating or wasting.
It makes a lot of sense, really, doesn't it? Like, and you can see, just even listening to you talking about the negative thoughts that come in, the opposite of that is like the feeling of confidence you have when you're up on a horse before the race starts with the storyteller at the weekend. You're like, well, actually, I feel grand here. And you've got the full range of your faculties to think and do the analysis that you need to do in the race to see what the threats are. I guess, like, it's just you must feel an amazing unburdening and freedom at the moment.
Yeah, like, this seems like absolutely nothing, but I went up to Donoghue the other day and I had a cup of green tea on the way up there. And I know someone say, it's just a cup of tea. But before, if I was going and I just had that cup of tea, that could have put on £2 and you wouldn't be able to do the weight. But even just little things like that for your head alone is just good. You know, I was in a good frame of mind going up there and I was so confident and I was strong and fit, and you'd think you're as good as any jockey in the race.
And 20-odd winners since lockdown. Happy days.
Yeah, just have to keep it going now.
I suppose you've benefited as well from the, things that have happened to others, Davy Russell and Jack Kennedy, and it's just been a pretty mad year for Gordon's jockeys.
It has, yeah. Oh, definitely, I have benefited from that, but they've benefited from me over the years from not being able to do the weights and not riding and, taking time off. And Jack Kennedy won a Supreme because of me, and Davy Russell won a Grand National because I couldn't do the weight on Tiger Roll. So they've benefited from me as well, and all that has got to me that I just said I'm sick of everyone else benefiting from me,
Well, you're generally recognised as one of the sounder jockeys in the weighing room, but you seem to have developed, certainly over the course of this interview, you're showing a bit of an edge where you probably said, listen, this is all well and good, but I have to appreciate that I'm actually a good jockey here and I'm not able to fulfil my potential at this stage.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I've never doubted my ability, it's just obviously getting the chances, and I'm in the right place to get them. And, there's always going to be horses that I don't ride that I want to ride, but that's the game we're in. That happens every jockey, not just me, and it's just, I was sick of sitting at home and listening to Gordon or them saying, oh, Keith does a great job schooling this horse. That's not what I wanted.
Keith, I know you said it's well documented at this stage. I think a lot of people probably don't know that much about what happened before, but the other thing that strikes me is that most of the great sports people have something go against them at some point early in their career, and the challenge is whether or not they come back from it and whether or not they can learn from it. And you've had that a couple of different times where...
I've had plenty of them, yeah.
Yeah, and whether or not, like, whether or not you can actually use that as a motivation. I know, like, using a negative motivation sometimes in sport is frowned upon, but so many great sports people have used a setback to inspire them as something that they never want to go back to, or as something that they remember all the time, like that feeling in the pit of your stomach. So I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but I was just reading before I came on about LeBake winning, and I think a lot of us will remember LeBake, you know, famously a little bit of a narky horse at the start, frequently wouldn't start races, but when it started races was absolutely sensational. You would have schooled LeBake, I think, and would have had a really good relationship with it, but ultimately you didn't get to ride LeBake on the day of its most famous victory in Cheltenham. Yeah,
look, I missed 3 or 4 grade ones. I missed the grade 1 on Riding Me, and that race that I won Saturday 7 years ago. I was about to weigh out for the horse, and Jigginstown decided that they wanted Brian Cooper to ride the horse. His horse was a non-runner, and they took me off him and completely out of my control. You know, I was only 20 years of age. That's very hard to take. I remember just crying the whole way home. LeBake then, obviously my weight was bad at the time, and I just couldn't, mentally I couldn't do it anymore. I was just like, I didn't care. But obviously I cared when he won. It really bothered me. And then I got an accident out hunting with my eye, and I missed the grade 1 on Fleming Star as well.
And do you remember those things now when you crossed the line on the Storyteller? Did any part of your brain flash back to those and go, yeah, got you back, that's it? Because they're part of who you are now.
Yeah, it was pure emotion when I crossed the line. I said to Jack Madden and Katie Young walking in, I actually don't know if I want to laugh or cry. You know, it was just pure emotion. It feels like every time that I run now, I put myself under pressure. It's 4 days like that, and I feel like the lockdown has given me a new start. I nearly feel like I'm starting my career again.
Which is an incredible thing, because that gives you this real force of nature behind you and a sense of momentum and a sense of purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I know them feelings when you put on a stone and how you feel, and you're sitting at home, lying on the couch watching the race, and then you're against everything, and you don't want to see Gordon having winners, or you don't want to see these horses winning that you're riding out at home and all. And that's the way I'd gone against it. Whereas now, you know, it'll be a lot more positive, and you want to see everything doing well, but I want to be part of it.
Yeah, and I think one last thing for me, Johnny, the other thing is that obviously your horsemanship was obviously always of the very highest order, to the point where people wanted to put you on the horses, but they just couldn't.
Yeah, they couldn't. And then obviously I wasn't riding enough winners, or I wasn't riding enough, and, you know, people are always going to decide that they wanted someone else. But like, I think Cheltenham last year was probably, I should have been riding a lot more than I did. I just had Tiger Roll, and it was probably more my fault because I just had lost the interest of it. And, you know, they're the days I don't want to go back to.
I suppose as well, though, if you're pigeonholed as a jockey that can only do a certain way, maybe in people's head it's like, well, that's kind of him. He's not really available to me necessarily.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, you know, the way these things hold on to you as well. But like now, I think a lot of people can see that I can do the lighter weights, and people are starting to notice a lot more. I've had 200 rides or 199 rides since the lockdown. I wouldn't have even had that all last season. I probably had 130 or 40, and I had 6 winners, whereas I have 25 winners already this season. So I don't mean to sound, you know, very confident, but I always knew of my confidence of how good of a rider I was, and just it was always my weight that was holding me back.
Yeah, it's good to see you. You're on the front page of the Racing Post as well. Comment from your fellow Meathman, David Jennings, how Keith Donoghue's world came full circle after Jigginstown disgrace rant. So you're certainly in the news.
Yeah, Dave Jennings rang me that night that I obviously with after I got chucked off Riding Me, and like I was only 20 years of age. You know, what do other 20-year-olds be doing with their lives now? Hanging around pubs and drinking. You know, I wasn't
TikTok
mentally
these
ready
days.
to take TikTok, yeah. You know, Snapchat and young ones. I wasn't mentally ready to take something like that. And, you know, we all grow up, we all make mistakes in life, and, you know, Jigginstown, they make plenty of mistakes. Michael Leary makes mistakes in Ryanair every day of the week, and just obviously I'm able to deal with them a lot better now.
To be honest, I'd actually forgotten about that, but I was like literally just reading it here, and David writes, the phone rang, Donoghue answered, you come to expect the usual, my day will come, and that's lifelines in these sort of situations, but not this time. He loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves and let rip. It's a joke, an absolute disgrace. And it's funny how you look back, and I guess you look at Davy Russell in that day in Tramore and how he reacted from the Jigginstown stuff, and I guess you just get older and you get more experience with age as well.
Yeah, like if that happened to me now, I'd deal with it a lot different. Like I was on a Jigginstown horse easy work on Sunday in the beginner's chase. I was like schooling him this morning, delighted to see I was down riding him. And at 11:45, I looked at the declarations again, and I just seen Sean Flanagan was on the horse. You know, nothing. No, I didn't hear why. Or, you know, nothing I can do. That's out of my control. Whereas, like, if that had happened 5, 6, 7 years ago, you take these things completely different, and you go completely against the game. But you know, racing can be very tough, and obviously, I'm very disappointed that I'm not riding that horse, because I'll have to go in tomorrow morning and school that horse over fences for Sean Flanagan to ride him. But that's just the way the game is. And I remember Dave Jennings. I can remember that phone call with Dave Jennings clear as day. I put the phone in the pocket of the car on the way home. I said, I'm not answering that. Puppy Power was with me. I said, I'm not answering the phone to anyone. And I was going back to Paul Carby's. I was clipping a hunter. And for some reason, I could just feel the phone vibrating in my pocket. And I said, I looked at the number, and I hadn't answered. Like, my mum had rang me, loads of people. You know, I wouldn't answer people that were close to me. And I didn't know the number. And for just some reason, something clicked with me, and I answered it. And, you know, I just let loose. And that was probably the one phone call that I shouldn't have answered at the time.
It's funny as a journalist there, because if you know the jockey, and I'm not sure this has ever happened to me, but I'd say, Ger, maybe it might have, you know, you might be in a similar situation where you're sort of vaguely familiar or friendly with the person, and he or she gives you an interview, and you're like, shouldn't have said that. Yeah, probably should publish it. You know, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, like, I'd be very good friends with Dave Jennings. You know, we're both from Meath. He lives in Dunshaughlin here now, where I live, and, you know, be very good friends with him. Obviously, at the time, I probably wasn't as close with him, but, you know, we've both got over that, and it's mad the way it can come back around 7 years later, where he's writing good stuff about the same race.
Can I say, part of me thinks that this is the best part of racing, is that everybody actually says a little bit about what they think. There's far less of the, you know, look, they're all great horses, and sure, the next race. There's far less of the stuff that we get from the GAA lads after matches, the rugby lads after matches, and the footballers after matches. You know, there's no easy games, blah, blah, blah. What I really like about the racing people is they tell you the truth. That horse is a pig of a horse.
The thing is, what I said that day, to this day, it was probably the truth, but I probably shouldn't have said it. You know, but
the truth and the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I was after going to Punchestown 3 weeks before that for a grade 3 for one ride on Tone of the Darries, and they Jigginson pulled another horse out and put Brian Cooper on the horse, and he won as well. So this was the second time it was after happening to me in 3 weeks, and, you know, obviously it just all exploded with me.
And look, do you remember all that now as something that actually spurs you on and gives you, so yeah, I'm going to go running today. I'm very tired. I couldn't be arsed, but actually I'm going to do it because that happened. And there's just a list of stuff that you pull from and go, get out there, do it. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and like, I remember we had to go to Cork the next day, and I went to Paul Carby, and I didn't even want to go racing that day. And I was in the shower in Cork after, and Davey, Russell and Ruby came into me, and they gave me a big talk, and they told me to ring Michael Leary and this and that. All I want to do was take the head off the two of them. You know, I didn't care less. I would have happily just knocked the two of them out with a punch and walked on. But, you know, I rang Michael Leary and apologised and whatever, and, you know, moved on from it. But
what did he say to you?
What did Michael say, actually?
No, he accepted, and he said he's been called a lot worse than that. So, yeah.
Justifiably as well at times, I'd say.
Yeah, so. But you know, obviously I didn't ride for them for a long time after. But then I rode 2 Cheltenham winners for them on Tiger Road and won my first grade 1 for them. So that's the way this game is. Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen it with Davey, that the relationship eventually comes back full circle, and he's riding their horses again as well. So, yeah, you know, it's a long road with no turning, and people can't bear grudges too much for somebody saying what they actually think in the heat of the moment. But yeah, that's what I feel now. Like, any success I get, I feel like I've worked really hard for it and that I deserve it, you know.
I know you're buddies with some of the kind of the Gaelic football players and a couple of the Dublin lads out there, and maybe there's a slight kind of, I don't know, some sort of similar situation with the Dublin footballers, in that they, like, I don't think, as much as Dublin footballers are very, you know, they're very privileged and all that, they have to give up an awful lot of their lives to do what they want to do, and not necessarily with massive rewards. And for you, you had to, you're in an extremely good team, but it's hard work. And did you get any kind of advice from them about sticking with it when it was going tough?
Yeah, I was good friends with Kieran Kilkenny and John Small, and probably very close with Kieran. And I remember talking to him during the lockdown, as I was kind of half thinking, will I put on the stone? Will I lose a stone here, and a few words from Kieran definitely helped me to get back running and get dedicated again. He has that elite attitude where he just wants to. He's so dedicated, and definitely get a few good words off him.
The one thing I notice about all the Dubs is that they're using their sports careers to further their professional lives as well. As somebody who has thought about walking away from the game in the past, are you conscious that actually at some point you'll stop being a jockey and that you need to have a life after that? Or are you setting down enough roots in the racing industry to be able to move away, when you're in your 30s, that you'll have something else to fall back on within the industry?
Yeah, well, obviously, even last year when I thought about half giving up again, Gordon offered me a job there, and it would have been a very good job, and it'd have been a very good wage, and you'd live a comfortable lifestyle, and you wouldn't be worrying about your weight. But I knew I wasn't ready to take that job, and I couldn't be doing the work and then watching somebody else riding them horses. I knew that's what I think made me realise I want to be riding the horses, and I thought about it for a couple of weeks, and I went back to Gordon and told him that I didn't want that job and that I wasn't ready to take it, that I wanted to give it another good go. So I know I can't do this forever, and all the running I do, obviously, as I get older, I don't think my body will take it, but I want to do it for as long as I can, and I'll worry about something else in a few years' time. Yeah,
no, you're dead right. A little bit of bitterness is very inspirational from time to time. A lot of people getting in touch. Keith says, Patrick James, do you guys ever work the horses at top speed or try to replicate actual race conditions and speed? I'd be curious to know how presenting Percy and Envoy LN compare when you're riding them out.
I ride Envoy Allen now every day, and it's like driving a Ferrari. Even if you're in bad form, to get up on Envoy Allen and put you in good form. His walk, everything is better than every other horse. I've only rode presenting Percy once, and he wouldn't be in the same league as Envoy Allen, but obviously he's a very good horse, but I'd be picking Envoy Allen any day over him. And
the question about, do you ever work the horses at top speed, or is that only ever on race day itself?
No, that's only ever on race day itself. Obviously you do work them and you gallop them, but everything to be on the bridle and just, everything is preparing them for a race. It's like me going running. You don't push yourself to the limit every day. You prepare yourself for a big day.
Have you been in any races as a matter of interest as a runner? Is that something that you do?
I've done a good few, yeah. Obviously they haven't been on this year, but the last few years I've done 25Ks and 10Ks.
And are you trying to win them?
I'd be competitive.
Yeah, it's. I guess it's something like it. How many jockeys from your peers now would be regular runners, Keith?
Very few. I grew up with, Paul Carby. He had no weight problem.
Can't imagine him doing marathons now.
No, we went to the gym a few times, but he can hardly walk, let alone run.
yeah.
But no, none But I was always a good runner. I always done running. I always played sport, and I think if I wasn't a jockey, I'd love to be a footballer or be a runner or be something like that. I do love sport.
A quick question about Gaelic football there while you were talking about the Dubs. How close do you think they're going to get to them this year?
I think the last few years I was very negative about Meath, and I was disappointed. I'm friends with a good few of the players on the team, and Eamon Wallace and Joey Wallace and a few lads like them. And I think Meath are definitely coming. I think they're a good forward or two away from putting it up to Dublin. They put it up to a few good teams there for 50, 55 minutes, and then just struggled for the last 5 or 10 minutes. But the last couple of matches, they've been very good, and I think they'll give them a bit of a game if they get to the Leinster final this year.
And then Navan this weekend, there's a really good race card as well. Is Navan your closest? Is Dunshaughlin closer to Fairyhouse, or is it closer to...
No, Fairyhouse is the closest. It's 10K, because I've ran to Fairyhouse a few times and got my mum to bring my bag behind me.
Right. That's a good way of making sure you're going to make the way for that. But then Navan obviously very close to you this weekend, and there's a number of really good races. What's on your book of rides? Do you know exactly what you're doing yet?
Yeah, I have 5 rides. I have 3 for Matthew Smith and 2 for Gordon. I've a couple of good rides for Matthew. So I ride Ronald Pump, who is second in the Stayers Hurdle in Cheltenham. He runs in the Lismullen Hurdle. He's a brilliant ride to get. Matthew's a great trainer. His horses are in good form, and really looking forward to riding him.
So that's Ronald Pump up against Cracking Smart, Sardi Burley, Sumneck, Super Sunday and Tower Bridge. I think it's a small enough field at this stage, but that's a very high quality field as well.
It's a very good race, yeah. I think Sir de Burley, he won the Pertemps last year. He's probably a lot fitter this time of year than he has been in years gone by, and I'd say he's the main danger. I'd say he's the one to beat. Noel Meade, a 6-shooter in there as well, who has had a run, and he won in Punchestown, so he'll have race fitness again us all. But Ronald Pump is a very good horse. Sorry,
there's obviously a load more there as well. So there's 3 more. Relegate, 6-shooter and French Dynamite were the last 3 on that one as well. This point about fitness and horses being fit at this time of the year, we are still a long way from Cheltenham. So is that going to have a major impact that actually we haven't thought through the full implications of the horses that had a break when they would have been at their most busy, came back, got back up to some kind of peak, maybe kept that peak? I guess it's a juggling act for a lot of trainers, and we don't really know how that's going to work out over the next 4 months.
Yeah, no, it's always the same this time of year. You have the few horses that come out earlier and the few that are only starting back, and I think race fitness is a big thing, but trainers these days have their horses so much fitter than they would have had years ago. You have so much more facilities now and better facilities for galloping horses that a lot of horses don't actually improve that much for a run.
And then in the Troy Town, what have you got in the Troy Town?
I think Gordon has 7 or 8 in it, but I ride Roaring Bull. He won the Paddy Power last year under Jack Kennedy. He's lost his form a little bit, but if he can back the form, he'd definitely have a good chance.
Okay.
And what's he like at home? Or
Rowan Bull, he'd be a bit like you, Johnny. He'd just go through the motions.
Yeah, so, with 2 pulled up before his name. I suppose the main point, though, you've made in terms of anyone who's looking for sort of, I know you're brilliant at your long-term forecast, but do you have anything for punters for Cheltenham? Because I suppose the way you spoke about Invoy Allen there, it was quite startling. Anyone else?
Maybe something like the Boss's Oscar for the Pertemps.
Keith Donoghue giving us a tip for the Pertemps on the 6th of November. You can't beat it.
Don't be too far wrong, Johnny. You know that yourself.
No. I have to say, Ger, of all the...
Can I ask Johnny a question?
Go for it.
Will Georgie Shaw win a race?
Yeah, Keith rode... this is another thing. Keith rode Georgie Shore in a race the other day, Ger, completely changed the tactics on him, and promptly the horse improved about 20 pounds in his previous run. So... I tell you what, will you keep the ride?
I don't know. I'll have to get you to get on to Gavin.
Yeah, we'll have to have a chat about that. But Gavin Cromwell, bow to your knowledge, and nearly paid off. I don't think you made enough use of the horse, though.
No, but I was a bit cautious that if I made too much use, he stopped, I'd be killed. So the next day we will.
It's even though it's a 0 to 95, it's still fun when you've something to look forward to, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good stuff. Keith, thanks a million for being with us. Is there anything else at the weekend at Navan that we should be looking out for, do you think?
I think Elwood is a neat way bet in the Tri-Town. He had a good run in the Grade 2 novice around Navan last year. If he jumps around, his jumping will have to come together a little bit better, but he could be one off a good mark.
All right, good stuff.
So yeah, Elwood and Roaring Bull are like neck and neck, and Keith's like, well, I did tip Elwood to the off the ball lads, but I am riding Roaring Bull, so yeah, hopefully it's a dead heat or something.
No, I'll be Elwood for neck and neck.
Great stuff, Keith. Keep up the run, and thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks, Dad.
All right, that is good stuff there. We had Keith on 4 or 5 months ago, and it's funny how things change around in sport, and the little bit of change in circumstances can make a huge difference in a career. Friday Night Racing is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Time for us to get some tips from Johnny. Where are we at this stage?
We did third there last week with Mouse Morris's horse, who looked all over the win at second last, back from 14s into 92, but finished third. I presume he's named after Eric Elwood, Ger, would he be?
Yeah, there can't be too many other Elwoods.
I do remember being a kid and back in the day, I suppose there wasn't as much sport on TV when I was younger, but Ireland internationals were, even in rugby, when, we're coming from the back RCs, Galway, but would have been near enough to Craig's Rugby Club, whatever. But I do remember us being really proud that somebody from Connacht was on the Ireland team, because at that stage, I suppose no different to now, it was was pretty unheard of at that time.
A stitch up between Leinster and Munster with an occasional Ulster player thrown in to make sure that everybody was happy.
Exactly. Yeah, I do remember having great time for him as an out half for Ireland back in the day. But there you go. There's the tip from Keith anyway.
So Starting Monday was the horse that we backed last week. Failed to deliver a payday for the Tote Irish Ninja Jockeys Fund last Saturday. The fund...
No, Starting Monday was the previous week. Starting Monday, as anyone who follows my tips will attest to, they generally have a great record the day after I tip them, but not so much the day I tip them. But Starting Monday won next time out in Galway in a maiden. Actually runs... We're running today at the Curragh, actually. But no, I tipped Foxy Jacks, who was third.
Foxy Jacks, OK. The fund still sits at €2,230 either way. We'll have another €100 charity tote bet this weekend. A reminder that Tote.ie customers can get the Tote Guarantee Tote versus SP on all Irish and UK racing. Check out Tote.ie for more. What's our nap this week, Johnny?
The nap is in the final race at your local Naas tomorrow, the 4:10, which is the last race of the flat season, I think. Would that be right? And my tip is trained by Dennis Hogan. This horse it's well worth watching its run at Goran last time out, where it was only hit once about 2 furlongs out, kind of met a bit of traffic, and I think he's a massive chance. He's rated 73, but it's a very, very weak race, and he seems to be totally reliant on bottomless ground, which despite the beautiful autumnal day we have today, or winter day we have today, it's going to be heavy at Naas.
We didn't talk about the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you think of Dermot Weld, and we had Dermot Weld on recently, and he's not afraid of referencing his achievements in the Melbourne Cup, because it was quite groundbreaking for not only an Irish trainer, but essentially a Northern Hemisphere trainer to win the race. But now it's kind of... I don't think it was even that newsworthy that Ireland won the race. And Jim Bulger used to train Twilight Payment, ended up with Lloyd Williams, so the famous colours for Melbourne Cup horses, rekindling and so on, moved to Joseph O'Brien, and he's always been a horse with a fantastic attitude. He's real will to win, and he held on really gamely and provided Joseph O'Brien with, I don't know, dare I say it, is it a routine winner in the race? It reminds you of when I think it was Tony Martin, Willie Mullins and Aidan or Joseph had the first three. I should remember that properly. But Willie Mullins, he's obviously his bid to win a Melbourne Cup was something that would energise someone like him. And as Patrick famously said, they finished second in the race to a horse trained by Joseph, and he said, we've gone all the way around the world to finish second to a horse rated who basically is trained down the road from us, and that's what happened. And the Irish have just taking this race by absolute storm. I think the Aussies, they're probably not the best losers in the world.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I think it might be great with them a bit at this stage.
That's great. Finally, we get our own back on something. Right, Johnny, good stuff. I hope you back a winner and enjoy the rest of the weekend's racing. Friday Night Racing and Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. See you next week.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.